So I never had to do any revisions on it at all. During the time I was at Family Guy, now there were again 13 years between me drawing this picture, which I drew at a restaurant that gives you butcher paper and gives you a little can of crayons so that you can doodle while you're waiting for your food. I drew this in purple crayon there, and my first wife, who was with me, looked at it and went, "Ooh, who is that?" And my exact words were, "This is Phineas. This is the show I'm going to sell someday." And I knew it the second he came out, because this is the show I want to see. I want to see a show with a kid whose head was shaped like a triangle, and I'd never seen that. The reason I drew it is because I'd never seen it. It's like for a long time, animation was all, based on circles and ovals and stuff like that. It was all very soft. And then The Simpsons came along, and suddenly Bart's head was a coffee can, and Lisa had all these weird shaped, cones all over her head. And I was thinking, what other shapes have people not done? And I was like, nobody's drawn a triangle, and that's what I did. And over the 13 years we were pitching it, he changed a little bit. This was like the first time I drew Ferb. Look at the nose on this guy. What's that all about? And I decided they didn't look quite like they were in the same universe, so I sort of squared Ferb off a lot and made him more of a rectangle and a square. And this is, of course, the guys that you know. But you can look back at this, and if I show you this picture, you know who that is, don't you? That's Phineas. So we pitched it around town for 13 years, and to every studio. And I wasn't really great at getting out and pitching it all the time, but every once in a while, somebody from a studio would say, "Hey, do you have anything of your own that you'd like to pitch?" And I always said, "Yes, I do." And I would dust off Phineas and Ferb, and I would come in and pitch it to them. And it got optioned a couple times by a smaller company. It got way up the echelon at Fox Kids before they said no. Actually, they said yes, but for next season. And then Fox Kids got bought out by Turner, and that disappeared. It was like, it's a heartbreaking thing to keep bringing stuff around to different places. Finally, I was doing somebody else's pilot at Disney, and they asked if I had anything of my own. So I brought it in, I pitched it to Disney, I did the whole song and dance, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not looking for a boys project right now." It was like, "Do you have anything with girls in the lead?" And I was like, "Well, I do have something else here." And I pitched that, and that didn't go. But they said no to it. But they said, "Could we keep these, could we keep the booklet?" And I said, "Sure." I had like a little pitch booklet that I put together. And usually that means they just don't want to throw it away in front of you. But a year and a half later, I get a phone call one morning, and it's Megan, who is the executive that I pitched to, and she said, "Dan, I know it's out of the blue, but we want to buy Phineas and Ferb. We want to option it and maybe go to pilot on it." And I was like, "Oh." And she said, what is your agent? What's your agent's name? And we'll get in touch with them." And I was like, "I'd better get an agent so that they can talk to somebody about this deal." And I called Swampy, who was in England at the time, and I said, "Swampy, I just got a phone call from Disney, and they want to do Phineas and Ferb. They want to go to pilot on Phineas and Ferb, possibly. If we get a show going, do you want to come back and work on it with me?" And he said, "That sound you hear right now is the sound of me packing.